Marcus Davis looked up at the tall glass building that held the headquarters of Skyward Airlines. The sun was shining brightly, reflecting off the windows and creating small sparks of light that danced around him. Today was a big day for Marcus. After many years of hard work, he was finally stepping into his new role as the CEO of one of the fastest growing airlines in the country. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool morning air fill his lungs. His heart was calm but full of excitement. This was the moment he had dreamed about for so long. When Marcus was a young boy, he used to watch airplanes fly overhead and imagine himself in a big office, making decisions that would help people travel safely and happily. Now, that dream was coming true. Marcus adjusted his tie and straightened his jacket. He checked his watch and then walked toward the revolving doors. As he entered the building, he noticed the busy sound of people talking and typing on keyboards. The hum of conversations mixed with the clicking of shoes on the shiny floor made the whole place feel alive. He passed the reception desk, where a young woman smiled and nodded politely at him. "Good morning, Mr. Davis," she said. Marcus smiled back. "Good morning," he replied. He moved quickly to the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. As the elevator doors closed, Marcus looked at his reflection in the shiny metal. He saw a man who looked calm, but inside, he felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. He remembered all the challenges he had faced to reach this point. The long nights of studying, the tough decisions, the times when others doubted him but he never gave up. When the elevator opened, Marcus stepped into a wide hallway filled with glass walls and modern art. He walked confidently toward the CEO's office. On the way, a few employees stopped to greet him. Some smiled warmly, others nodded with respect. Marcus felt proud but also aware of the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. As he approached the door with his name on it, Marcus paused. He reached out and opened the door slowly. Inside, the office was large and bright, with a view of the city below. A big wooden desk sat near the window, covered with papers and a computer. There were pictures on the walls, airplanes in flight, employees working together, moments of success. Marcus took his seat behind the desk and let out a quiet breath. He looked around and thought about the journey ahead. The airline was doing well, but there were many things to improve. New routes needed to be planned, customer service had to be better, and the company culture had to grow stronger. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his close friend and mentor, James. "Good luck today, Marcus. You deserve this. Lead with your heart and your mind." Marcus smiled and replied, "Thank you, James. I won't let you down." The phone went silent, and Marcus focused on the task at hand. He opened his laptop and began reviewing the reports from the past month. The numbers looked good, but there were some areas where the airline was losing money. He made notes and planned to discuss these in the first meeting with the management team. As he worked, there was a knock on the door. Marcus looked up to see Lisa, the head of human resources, standing in the doorway. "Good morning, Marcus," she said. "Everyone is waiting for you in the boardroom. The first meeting starts in 5 minutes." Marcus nodded and stood up. "Thank you, Lisa. I'll be there shortly." He walked down the hallway toward the boardroom. On the way, he saw employees busy with their work. Some looked up and smiled, others whispered quietly. Marcus knew that some people were curious about him. After all, he was the first black CEO in the company's history. That was a big change, and not everyone would be happy about it. But Marcus was ready for that. He had faced challenges before and would do so again. When he reached the boardroom, Marcus pushed the door open. The room was filled with important-looking people in suits. Some shook his hand warmly, others offered polite nods. Marcus took his place at the head of the table, where the CEO usually sat. He noticed Claire Benton, a senior executive, sitting near the front. She gave him a quick smile, but Marcus could sense something in her eyes, something sharp and challenging. He didn't know her well yet, but he would learn soon enough. The meeting began with Marcus speaking clearly and confidently. He talked about his vision for Skyward Airlines, a company where everyone worked together, where customers were treated like family, and where the team was proud of what they achieved. He spoke about new ideas for routes and services, and about making sure employees felt respected and valued. As Marcus spoke, he watched the faces around the table. Some people looked inspired, others uncertain. But he could feel the energy in the room changing. Slowly, people began to ask questions and offer suggestions. Marcus answered with honesty and openness, showing that he wanted to listen and learn as much as lead. At one point, Claire spoke up. "Marcus, your ideas are interesting," she said, "but this company needs strong leadership. Are you ready for the pressure?" Her tone was polite but firm, and Marcus could tell she was testing him. Marcus smiled gently. "I understand the pressure, Claire. I've faced many challenges before, and I'm ready for this one. Together, we can make Skyward Airlines stronger than ever." The room was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, others began to nod and agree. The meeting ended with a sense of hope and new beginnings. After the meeting, Marcus walked back to his office. He felt tired but happy. This was only the start of a long journey, but he knew he was exactly where he needed to be. He sat down at his desk and looked out the window again, watching a plane take off into the clear blue sky. Marcus whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning." Claire Benton sat at her desk, staring at the glowing screen in front of her. The news that Marcus Davis had been appointed CEO of Skyward Airlines still felt strange in her mind. Claire had been with the company for over 10 years. She knew every rule, every process, and every person. For a long time, she had quietly hoped she would become CEO one day. But that day wasn't today. Marcus had taken that place. Claire's fingers tapped nervously on the desk. She tried to push away the feeling of disappointment, but it clung tightly. She was good at her job, very good. She had led many successful projects and earned the respect of many colleagues. She believed that she deserved the top job. Instead, a man she barely knew had stepped into her dream. The office buzzed around her, but Claire felt like she was in a bubble. She tried to focus on the reports in front of her, but her mind kept drifting back to Marcus. Who was he, really? How would he lead the company? Would he understand the airline business as well as she did? Claire shook her head and stood up. She needed fresh air. Walking quickly through the halls, she reached the large windows on the third floor. Outside, she saw the airport runways stretching wide, planes coming and going like busy ants. It was a beautiful sight, but Claire's heart felt heavy. Just then, Lisa, the head of human resources, approached her with a friendly smile. "Claire, are you okay? You seemed quiet this morning." Claire forced a smile. "I'm fine, Lisa. Just thinking about the new changes." Lisa nodded understandingly. "Change can be hard. But Marcus is a good leader. I believe he will do well." Claire looked away, not ready to agree. "We will see," she said softly. Later that day, the office phone rang. Claire picked it up. It was her friend Rachel from another department. "Hey, Claire. Did you hear about the CEO's first meeting today?" Rachel asked excitedly. Claire sighed. "Yes, I was there. Marcus has some ideas, but I'm not sure if they will work." Rachel laughed. "You always worry too much. Marcus is different. I think he will surprise us." Claire ended the call and leaned back in her chair. Maybe Rachel was right. But Claire was not someone to give up easily. If Marcus was going to be the CEO, she decided she would make sure her voice was heard. She would prove that she was just as strong a leader, maybe even stronger. The next morning, Claire arrived at the office early. The sunlight streamed through the windows, making the glass walls shine like diamonds. She walked past the reception area and nodded to the receptionist, who smiled politely. Claire felt a small spark of determination. Today, she would show Marcus and everyone else that she was a powerful force in the company. As Claire entered the boardroom, she noticed Marcus already sitting at the head of the table, going over some documents. A few other executives were present too, waiting for the meeting to start. Claire took a seat near the front but made sure to sit in a position where she could be easily seen. The meeting began with Marcus speaking calmly about his plans for the airline. Claire listened carefully, but inside she was preparing her response. When Marcus finished, Claire raised her hand and spoke up. "Marcus," she began, her voice steady and clear, "I appreciate your vision. But I think some of your ideas may not fit with the current structure of the company. We have worked hard to build Skyward Airlines this way, and sudden changes could cause problems." Marcus looked at Claire and smiled politely. "Thank you for your thoughts, Claire. I want to understand the company better, and I'm open to learning from your experience." Claire was surprised by his calm and respectful tone. She had expected him to react defensively, but instead, he showed confidence and openness. Still, she was not ready to step back. "I'm here to help," Claire added. "But we must move carefully and make sure the team is ready for any changes." The conversation continued, with Claire and Marcus exchanging ideas. The room was filled with energy and occasional tension, but also respect. Marcus knew Claire was a valuable ally and a competitor. Claire realized that Marcus was not just a figurehead but a real leader with strong ideas. After the meeting, Claire stayed behind for a moment, watching Marcus gather his papers. She felt a strange mixture of respect and challenge. Marcus was not the person she expected, and that made her curious. "Marcus," she said, walking up to him, "I look forward to working with you. It won't always be easy, but I believe we can do great things together." Marcus smiled warmly. "Thank you, Claire. I believe that too. Let's make Skyward Airlines a place where everyone succeeds." As Claire left the boardroom, she felt a new kind of energy. This was not a battle to win or lose. It was a chance to grow, to push herself and the company to new heights. Claire knew that working with Marcus would be a challenge, but one she was ready to face. That evening, Claire sat in her living room, thinking about the day. She looked out the window at the city lights and took a deep breath. Change was hard, but it also brought new opportunities. Claire smiled softly. Maybe this was the start of something better, not just for the company, but for herself as well. The next morning at Skyward Airlines, the atmosphere was thick with quiet tension. Marcus Davis, the new CEO, walked through the bright hallways with a steady calm, though inside, he felt a familiar mix of excitement and pressure. Every step he took was a step deeper into his new role, and he was ready for the challenges ahead. As he approached the boardroom, Marcus noticed the door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open and froze for a moment. Someone was already sitting in the CEO's chair, a large, polished leather seat behind the long conference table. The person was a woman, with sharp eyes and a confident smile. It was Claire Benton, the senior executive who had already made her feelings known about Marcus's promotion. Claire looked up as Marcus entered, her smile never fading. "Good morning, Marcus," she said, her tone calm but firm. "I hope you don't mind, but I'm leading the meeting today." Marcus blinked, surprised by her boldness. "That's my seat, Claire," he said quietly but clearly. "I'm the CEO now." Claire's smile did not waver. "I understand that, but I have some important points to discuss first. I believe I'm better prepared to handle this meeting." Marcus stood still, feeling the eyes of others in the room turning toward them. The other executives exchanged looks, unsure how the situation would unfold. Marcus's heart beat a little faster, but his voice remained steady. "Claire," he said calmly, "this is the boardroom, and this seat belongs to the CEO. That means I lead the meetings. I respect your experience, but today, I'm the one in charge." Claire's expression shifted slightly. She was clearly surprised but not ready to back down. "Marcus, I'm not trying to disrespect you," she said softly. "But I think I have a better understanding of some urgent issues. It's important that we handle them carefully." Marcus nodded slowly, showing he was listening. "I appreciate your concern, Claire. But leadership is about trust and respect. If we want this company to succeed, we need to work together, not challenge each other in front of the team." Claire looked at him, her eyes searching his face. Then, for the first time that morning, her confident smile softened. "I didn't mean to create a problem," she said quietly. "Maybe I'm just nervous about the changes coming." Marcus took a step closer and spoke with kindness. "Change is hard for everyone. I know that. But I promise you, Claire, my goal is to make Skyward Airlines stronger with all of us working as one team." The room remained silent. Claire shifted in her seat, then slowly stood up. "All right, Marcus. You're the CEO. I'll follow your lead." Marcus smiled and gestured toward the chair. "Thank you, Claire. Let's sit and talk through the issues together." As Claire moved aside and Marcus took his seat, the tension in the room eased. The other executives relaxed and prepared to listen. Marcus opened his laptop and shared the agenda he had prepared. The meeting continued with serious discussion about upcoming flights, budgets, and customer service. Claire spoke up often, her voice steady and clear. Marcus listened carefully, answering questions and asking for suggestions. Together, they made plans that combined Marcus's fresh ideas and Claire's deep knowledge of the company. After the meeting ended, Marcus and Claire walked down the hallway side by side. Neither spoke for a few moments, but the silence felt comfortable. Finally, Claire broke the silence. "Marcus," she said, "I know we started the day with some tension. But I want you to know I respect you. Leading this company is not easy. I want to help." Marcus nodded. "I respect you too, Claire. We both want what's best for Skyward Airlines. I'm glad we can work together." They shook hands, a quiet promise forming between them. It was not just about sharing power, it was about building trust. Later that afternoon, Marcus returned to his office and sat behind his desk. He thought about the morning's confrontation. It had been difficult, but it was honest. Claire was strong, smart, and passionate, qualities any leader would want on their team. He smiled softly. This was only the beginning. Leading Skyward Airlines would require more than just a title, it would require patience, understanding, and strength. And Marcus was ready for the challenge. The phone on his desk rang. It was Lisa from Human Resources. "Marcus, the board wants to see you tomorrow morning for a special meeting." Marcus answered quickly. "Thank you, Lisa. I'll be there." As he hung up, Marcus looked out the window. Outside, planes moved across the sky, heading to their destinations. Just like those planes, Marcus's journey was taking off. And with every mile he flew, he would prove that leadership was about heart, courage, and respect, no matter who sat in the chair. The next morning, the boardroom was filled with important faces. Marcus sat quietly at the head of the table, ready to listen and learn. Today was the special meeting the board had called for, and Marcus knew this was his chance to show them he was prepared to lead Skyward Airlines. Claire Benton entered shortly after him. She took her usual seat, but Marcus noticed she seemed different, calmer, maybe even curious. The atmosphere felt tense but hopeful. The chairman of the board, Mr. Thompson, stood and cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "We have gathered here to discuss some key decisions about the future of Skyward Airlines. Marcus, as our new CEO, this is your opportunity to guide us." Marcus nodded and stood up. He spoke clearly and respectfully, sharing his vision for the company's growth and success. He talked about new routes, improving customer service, and building a strong team. The room listened attentively, some nodding in agreement, others silently weighing his words. Suddenly, Claire stood up. Her voice was calm but firm. "Before we move forward, there is an issue we need to address. Marcus, can you explain your recent decision to reorganize the management team without consulting the board?" Marcus took a deep breath. This question was coming sooner than he expected. He knew some members were wary of change, and Claire's question made the room quieter. "I understand your concern," Marcus replied calmly. "I made the decision because I believed it was necessary for the company's future. However, I agree that such decisions should involve the board. I will make sure to communicate better moving forward." Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. Better communication is important, but leadership also requires experience and respect for company traditions. "You are new here, Marcus." The room shifted again. Marcus felt the weight of those words but refused to show weakness. "I respect the company's history," Marcus said, "but I also believe that to grow, we must sometimes take risks and adapt. I am confident that with the right team, Skyward Airlines can reach new heights." At that moment, the door opened quietly. A young assistant entered with a stack of documents. She handed them to Mr. Thompson, who nodded and began to speak again. "We have received a letter from a major investor," he said. "They express concerns about recent leadership changes and want assurance that the airline will continue to perform well." Marcus glanced at the letter, then back to the board. "I appreciate their concerns," he said. "I will work closely with the investors and keep them informed. My goal is to build trust both inside and outside the company." As Marcus spoke, Claire's expression changed. She looked at him with something like surprise. This man who had just taken control of the company was not reckless or careless, he was thoughtful and prepared to take responsibility. Then Claire surprised everyone. She stood up once more and said, "Marcus, I want to say something. Your confidence and calm have impressed me. I admit I had doubts, but you are showing true leadership." The room was silent again. Claire's words felt like a bridge, a way to connect two very different people who shared the same goal. Marcus smiled warmly. "Thank you, Claire. I believe we all want what is best for Skyward Airlines. Together, we can achieve that." Suddenly, a quiet voice broke the silence. It was James, Marcus's mentor, who had been invited to attend the meeting. "Marcus, remember, ownership is not just about a title. It's about responsibility. And as you lead this airline, remember that you carry the hopes of many." Marcus nodded. "I do. I own this airline, not just in title, but in heart and purpose." Claire's eyes widened, and for the first time, she froze. The words were simple but powerful: "I own this airline." It was more than just a statement. It was a promise, a challenge, and a declaration of strength. The room held its breath. Claire looked down, then slowly nodded. She smiled, this time with real respect. The meeting ended with applause and a new sense of hope. Marcus's words had changed the energy in the room. People who were once uncertain now looked ready to follow his lead. After the meeting, Claire approached Marcus quietly. "You surprised me today," she said softly. "Not many people can say I own this airline and truly mean it." Marcus smiled gently. "It's not just about words, Claire. It's about actions. And I'm ready to prove it." The two shook hands, a silent agreement passing between them. The moment was a turning point, not just for their relationship, but for the entire company. Later that evening, Marcus stood by the window in his office, watching the planes take off into the fading light. The sky was painted with orange and purple hues, and the airplanes looked like small birds flying toward new adventures. Marcus thought about the day's events. The challenges were many, but so were the possibilities. He whispered quietly to himself, "This airline is mine. And together, we will soar." With renewed energy, Marcus turned back to his desk, ready to face whatever came next. Days passed, and the buzz around Skyward Airlines grew louder. Marcus Davis was no longer just the new CEO on paper, his presence was felt throughout the company. Employees whispered about his plans, the fresh energy he brought, and the confidence he showed. But with the excitement came a test that would challenge everything Marcus had worked for. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the unexpected happened. The phone rang sharply in Marcus's office. He picked it up quickly, already sensing the urgency in the voice on the other end. "Mr. Davis, this is James from Operations," said a tense voice. "We have a problem. One of our major flights, Flight 457 to Chicago, has been delayed due to a mechanical issue. Passengers are upset, and the news is starting to spread on social media." Marcus sat forward. He had learned early in his career that problems like these were not just about logistics, they were about people. Customers were counting on Skyward Airlines to get them home safely and on time. Every delay mattered. "Thank you for letting me know, James," Marcus said calmly. "What are the current plans to fix this?" "We have engineers working on the plane, but it will take several hours," James replied. "We are trying to arrange alternate flights, but the airport is crowded." Marcus nodded. "All right, keep me updated every 30 minutes. I'll handle the communication with passengers and the media." After the call ended, Marcus took a deep breath and stood up. He called Lisa in Human Resources and asked her to gather a small team to help with customer service and communication. Marcus knew that how the company handled this situation would show whether the new leadership could handle real pressure. Within an hour, the airport terminal was filled with passengers waiting anxiously. Skyward Airlines employees were doing their best to provide information, water, and snacks. Marcus arrived at the airport himself, dressed in a simple suit but carrying a calm and reassuring presence. He walked through the crowd, greeting people with a smile and words of comfort. Some passengers looked tired and frustrated, but many appreciated seeing the CEO take time to speak with them. Marcus found a small group of waiting passengers near Gate 12. One woman, Mrs. Roberts, spoke up. "I'm worried about missing my son's wedding," she said, her voice shaking. "This delay is making everything so uncertain." Marcus looked her in the eyes and replied gently, "Mrs. Roberts, I understand how important this day is for you. We are doing everything we can to get you there safely. I promise we will keep you updated and find the best way to make sure you don't miss the celebration." Mrs. Roberts nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Davis." Word spread quickly about Marcus's visit. Passengers began to feel more hopeful, and social media posts shifted from complaints to praise for the airline's care. Meanwhile, back in the operations room, Marcus stayed on the phone with James, making decisions about rebooking passengers, coordinating with other airlines, and managing staff shifts. The hours passed quickly but felt heavy with responsibility. Finally, after nearly 5 hours, the engineers gave the all-clear. Flight 457 was ready to take off. Marcus returned to the terminal and announced the good news. Applause broke out among the passengers, and the atmosphere lightened. That night, back at the office, Marcus sat at his desk, exhausted but satisfied. He had faced one of the toughest tests a CEO could have, a real crisis. And he had seen his team come together. Just then, Lisa entered with a small smile. "Marcus, I just spoke with Claire. She wanted to say she was impressed with how you handled everything today." Marcus smiled, tired but grateful. "Tell her thank you. I couldn't have done it without the whole team." Lisa nodded and left the room. Marcus leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The challenges of leadership were many, but moments like these made it all worthwhile. As he sat quietly, his phone buzzed again. It was a message from James: "Great job today. You truly own this airline." Marcus smiled and whispered to himself, "Yes, I do." The days after the Flight 457 crisis felt different at Skyward Airlines. The company seemed alive with new energy, and the employees began to look at Marcus Davis with a mix of respect and hope. But with this new respect came new challenges Marcus knew were just as important as fixing planes or managing flights. Claire Benton watched from her office window as Marcus moved through the hallways, greeting employees and listening carefully to their concerns. She saw how he handled the crisis at the airport, how he talked to the passengers, and how he stayed calm under pressure. For the first time, Claire truly felt the weight of his leadership and the strength behind his words, "I own this airline." Claire was not one to give praise easily, but that morning she made a decision. She needed to speak with Marcus directly, not as a rival, but as a partner. She sent a message asking Marcus to meet her in the company cafeteria during lunch. Marcus agreed without hesitation. When they met, the cafeteria was busy with people chatting and eating. Claire and Marcus found a quiet corner table. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the tension between them now softened by mutual respect. Claire was the first to speak. "Marcus, I want to apologize if I seemed difficult before. I was worried about the changes and what they might mean for the people here." Marcus smiled warmly. "I understand, Claire. Change can be scary. But I believe we both want the same thing: a strong company and a great team. Claire nodded. I want to help. You've shown you're willing to listen. Maybe together, we can make Skyward Airlines better than ever. Marcus reached out and shook her hand. I would like that very much. From that day forward, Claire and Marcus began working more closely. They held regular meetings to discuss plans, combining Marcus's fresh ideas with Claire's deep experience. Claire introduced Marcus to longtime employees and shared stories about the company's history, helping him understand the heart of Skyward Airlines. One afternoon, they walked through the maintenance hangar, where the engineers and mechanics worked on planes. Marcus stopped to talk with a group of workers, listening carefully to their suggestions. Claire watched quietly. You're doing well with them, she said. Marcus smiled. People want to be heard. They want to know their work matters. Claire nodded thoughtfully. You're right. That's what I've been trying to do for years. Maybe together, we can make sure everyone feels part of this airline's future. As the weeks went by, Marcus and Claire became a team people trusted. They handled problems together, celebrated successes, and learned from mistakes. The tension that once filled the halls began to fade, replaced by cooperation and hope. One day, during a company-wide meeting, Marcus stood before the employees. Skyward Airlines is more than just planes and schedules, he said. It's about people, our employees, our passengers, and our partners. Together, we will build an airline that cares deeply about every flight and every journey. Claire stood beside him, smiling proudly. The employees applauded, feeling a new sense of unity. Later that evening, Marcus and Claire stayed late in the office, reviewing plans for a new customer service program. Claire looked up and said, "You've changed this company in a short time." Marcus shook his head. "We've changed it together." As they packed up to leave, Marcus looked at Claire and said, "Thank you for giving me a chance." Claire smiled softly. "Thank you for being a leader worth following." Outside, the city lights sparkled like stars. Inside Skyward Airlines, a new chapter was beginning, one built on trust, teamwork, and the shared dream of soaring higher than ever before. The morning sun shone brightly over Skyward Airlines headquarters. The city was waking up, and so was the airline, stronger and more hopeful than ever before. Marcus Davis sat at his desk, reviewing reports and emails, feeling a quiet confidence inside. It had been months since he first took the CEO seat, and every day had brought new lessons and new chances to prove himself. Today was special. Skyward Airlines was launching a brand new flight route, a direct service between their city and a popular international destination. It was a big step, one that showed the company's growth and ambition. Marcus looked around his office and smiled. He remembered how far they had come. From tense board meetings to handling crises, and from competition to teamwork, every moment had shaped the airline's future. At that moment, Claire Benton walked in with a folder full of plans. She smiled warmly. "Are you ready for the launch today?" Marcus nodded. "I am. And I'm glad you're here to share this moment with me." Claire sat down across from him. "It feels good, doesn't it? To see how far we've come." Marcus agreed. "It does. But it's not just about the flight. It's about the people, our team, our passengers, and the trust we've built." The two leaders stood up and walked together toward the large conference room, where the entire team had gathered. The excitement was clear in the air. Marcus stepped forward and addressed the group. "Today marks a new chapter for Skyward Airlines. We are not just expanding our routes, we are growing our family. Every person here plays a part in this success, and I thank you all." Claire added, "Together, we faced challenges and found solutions. We listened, learned, and worked as one. This flight is proof that teamwork and respect can take us anywhere." Applause filled the room, and smiles shone on many faces. Marcus and Claire exchanged a glance, knowing this was a moment to remember. Later, at the airport, the team gathered by the new plane ready for the first flight. Marcus and Claire stood near the boarding gate, watching as passengers began to arrive. A young woman approached Marcus with a small child. "Mr. Davis, thank you for your kindness during the Flight 457 delay months ago," she said. "Your care made a difference to us." Marcus smiled gently. "I'm glad to hear that. We always want to put people first." Claire stood nearby, watching the scene with pride. The airline was no longer just about planes or profits, it was about connection and care. As the plane's engines began to roar softly, Marcus looked up at the sky and felt a deep sense of purpose. This was what leadership was about, guiding the company forward with heart and courage. The first flight took off smoothly, carrying passengers toward new destinations and new dreams. Back at headquarters, Marcus and Claire sat down after the busy day. The office was quiet now, filled only with the soft hum of the city outside. Marcus turned to Claire and said, "When I first took this job, I knew the road would be hard. But I never imagined how much I would grow and how much this company would change." Claire nodded. "You've shown that leadership is more than a title. It's about owning every decision, every challenge, and every success." Marcus smiled. "I own this airline not because I am the CEO, but because I believe in it with all my heart." Claire smiled back. "And that belief will carry us far." The two stood up and looked out the window as the stars began to appear in the night sky. They knew the journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever came next, united and ready to soar higher than ever before.